Hello, everyone. Hello, YouTubers. This is Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. So today we need to discuss ready to love or ready to bone or ready for sex, because that is what this show has turned into. Like I said, the most authentic seasons were season 1 and 2 in a lesser extent, but more so than these recent seasons, season 2. I'm tired, you guys. I was going to do like a thorough review of last week's episode as well as last night, but to be honest with you guys, I'm honestly bored and I'm honestly disgusted. Like, literally, everybody is leading with sex. Everybody wants to hook up. There's two extremes. There's either people who are formally married or people who have never allegedly had a girlfriend ever before in their life. And that is very disturbing, considering these people are in their 30s, 40s, and even potentially 50s, talking about they've never had, quote, a traditional girlfriend in the sense, but have kids out here and have all this other stuff going on. And it's like, what in the world? So there's this mentality, unfortunately, in this dating space right now, where there's a certain population of men who are not respecting women at all, who are not respecting the courting process, who are not treating women with respect, who are basically out here sleeping with anyone and everyone. And then when they get to a certain age where it's time to actually settle down and build with somebody, they don't know the proper cues or the proper things to do when courting a woman, because they're so used to leading with sex or leading with, late night sneaky links and everything else, that it's completely distorted what the traditional dating process is supposed to be. This is like watching real life Black Tinder play out on our television screens. This is like watching out, Black people meet on real time on reality TV, because everybody is leading with sex. Everybody is making innuendos about sex. Everybody is making jokes about getting wet, about sticking it in a hole, like all of this nastiness and raunchiness on what was supposed to be, a lighthearted dating show, that at first appeared to be a situation where you could actually see certain mistakes both the men and the women were making in their dating lives as to why they were single. But we pretty much can surmise for most of them, it's because they probably led with sex. And when you lead with sex before establishing any sort of a commitment to the person or anything long-term with the person, it distorts everything. And it completely changes the trajectory of where things are going to go. Yes, there's been some instances where maybe a one-night stand or a friends with benefits situation ended up working out for people, ended up working out and led to a relationship or led to a marriage or whatever. But oftentimes, more than not, it does not end up that way, because unfortunately one of the two people develops actual feelings after a while, whether they admit it or not, and things go left and end up, not working out the way that they wanted it to. But I'm just honestly so disgusted. Just all the sex talk. There's no talk about actually trying to get to know somebody. And pretty much there's been people who've been alluding, specifically in the past few seasons, that basically a lot of the cast are just simply hooking up during the process, which is why when you see some of these arguments, it's not about just the fact that they chose somebody else, they chose another woman over them. Oftentimes and not, it's because they were also sleeping with them during the filming of this show. So they thought because they were giving up the goodies that they were going to be one of the people that was going to be, at the end, was going to be one of the final couples. And then they pull the wool over them and they're basically like, And I was so turned off yesterday by Laverne, because he's only interested in one or two people, so therefore he's just decided that he's not even going to mingle with anybody else. He's just going to talk to the guys. He's going to be standoffish to everybody else. No. This is a dating show. You're supposed to be interacting with everybody. You should not be just hanging off to the side because the person you like is talking to somebody else and not you or whatever, or you don't feel like you want to deal with the other women. It's just so disgusting, and I'm so disgusted overall. And it's just a train wreck this season. And they keep saying Potomac, but it's not Potomac where they're at. It is not Potomac at all. It is other locations. It is Baltimore. It is DC. It's the National Harbor. It is not Potomac at all, you guys. It is not, and I'm so frustrated. And I think they are doing that on purpose because there was so much backlash of all the drama this past season in DC that they're trying to dress it up like, oh, Potomac, like how Real Housewives on Potomac on Bravo is supposed to be like the upper elite of the black elite in that area. And it's just not giving. It is just not giving what it needs to give if you're filming at the same locations you filmed at the previous season that just aired, that we didn't even have a break from, that we just went right into this new season. And whatever is going on with the format, whoever thought that the first few episodes needed to be doing all of these bombshells, incorporating bombshells every week, this isn't Love Island, you guys. This is not Love Island. This is Ready to Love. The whole point of this was for you to start out with 20 singles so that you can dwindle down each week until you get to the final 3 or final 4 couples that look the most likely to potentially have, you know, a relationship or dating exclusively or whatever. Not this whole thing where now as a viewer, you can't even get invested in the cast because they keep dropping in new people and they keep choosing select people for these blind dates. So you really have no attachment to the cast, and then it hurts the original cast because if they're not selected on these blind dates, they're not getting any screen time unless it is their turn to be a part of the elimination process. But outside of that, it diminishes the opportunity for the viewers to connect with some of these singles by throwing in new people each week. And it's taking away from the experience. I really feel they shouldn't have altered the format. Actually, what they did last season was fine by just throwing in a bombshell male, a bombshell female to mix things up a bit. Even I would say if they did the same approach this season and maybe instead of, you know, 1 female and 1 male bombshell, they could have just did 2 males and 2 female bombshells at once at the pool party in the middle of the season to see if that changed the trajectory of any of these people who they felt were their top 1 or 2 options. But this whole thing where you're getting to know new people every week, it kind of distorts things because either one of 2 things are going to happen. Either it's still going to turn certain people off to where they're still just going to focus on certain connections, or it is going to take away from other people. We're not going to see other people's process. And then there's still the risk of some of these bombshells going early. And it's literally like we see them now, we don't. Like with Suge Knight getting eliminated last week. So it's just like some of these people aren't even really who I would consider bombshells. The one thing I will say that they got right last season is the purpose of a bombshell, like a Sydney, is to come in and shake the table, is to come in and shake the game, is to come in and affect certain connections to where they're going to be like, okay, I may need to change this approach. Maybe this person isn't my number 1 and I need to see what's what. But this whole thing where we're just going to completely go away from the format of the show, potentially people who were there from the beginning, you know, are likely to go soon in favor of these other bombshells that we barely saw from the beginning. And it's just all confusing. It is all confusing and then it's all a hot mess. And how are we supposed to take anything seriously this season if the first half of the season was all these blind dates of all these new people that you were trying to incorporate into the show when you had the, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I didn't mind the bombshell, you know, approach mid-season last season. That's totally different from starting off the season with less contestants and then over the next few episodes adding more and more people. And now it's like, we're done adding bombshells now. Now from here on out, this is what we have and this and that. But the problem with this is we're 4 episodes in, you guys. We are 4 episodes in, and I can't even tell you who's who. I know only Wiley because of his background and everything else, and I know Joy because of the rumors of her and who her ex is and everything else, and I know her and the guy that talks like Barry White have some sort of a thing, but but there's just different people who are missing in certain episodes. Like, I forget a lot of the time that Sabrina's on the show. Precious looks like she's going to be eliminated. I don't even know why we had a cliffhanger, because if she doesn't go, I'd be shocked. But it's, again, I don't understand why they're trying to make all of these changes when you didn't need to. The biggest issue really for me was this whole thing where we're going to spend 2 seasons at a time at the same location isn't giving what it's supposed to give. And a lot of times the second season in the same location turns out to be worse than the first one. So this could potentially get very messy, or even messier than what we even saw last season, even though you're trying to dress it up as being Potomac, not DC, but it's still really DC. It's not Potomac. I refuse to call these shenanigans of out in the middle of Baltimore and National Harbor and DC and looking at the monuments being some Potomac. It's not Potomac, you guys. It's not. Stop lying to the viewers or trying to pull wool over their eyes for people who've never been to the DMV, who knows where everything is, or has family that lives there that knows where everything is and knows where you're filming is not in Potomac. Make it make sense. And then, was the music budget cut for this episode that we had to have the live band? But honestly, it was better than some of the karaoke that we've been giving. So I'm okay with it. It wasn't too bad. But the issue was there was a lot of dead noise, like dead space within the episode, because you could tell they were trying to not, spend money on, the karaoke music. So it was a little awkward at times. So, but again, you guys, we need to do better. We need to do better. Obviously, this show, does well enough to keep renewing and keep having future seasons and this and that. And we know for sure that the next season is going to be in Miami if they haven't started filming already. So we already know where the next location is. However, this show needs to be revamped. And the problem is now it's known enough to where certain people are going to be casted specifically to further their brands and not look for love and not look for anything serious. So that's the part that ruins it for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people accuse the show, accuse a lot of the contestants of this being fake, because we're seeing all this sex talk. We're seeing all these people who are getting casted who've never been in relationships before and have been in nothing but situationships, and they're like 30, 40, and 50 years old, and they have no concept of what to look for in dating somebody. So it's very awkward watching these interactions, watching these conversations, watching what people are talking about. When you're getting to know somebody, when you're getting to date somebody, you want to know real questions in the event that it could lead to an actual relationship, in the event that it can actually lead to marriage. So that is going to be questions about their likes, their dislikes, things that they're passionate about, their morals, their values, their upbringing, their, where they see themselves in 5 years, where they see themselves in 10 years. Do they want marriage? Do they want kids? If they already have been married, or if they already have kids, would they continue to have more kids, or would they want to get married another time, or what have you? Those are the questions that need to be taking place. Instead, we are getting nothing but sex. Every single conversation is about sex. Every innuendo is about sex. Every joke is about sex. There is nothing meaningful that is happening, and it hasn't been that way for a long time on this show. And it's very frustrating as a viewer, because it's like, why am I watching? It's like, why am I watching if we already know how this is going to end? That likely, maybe, because really only Joy and the guy that talks like Barry White seems like a sure thing, and whoever it is that Sabrina chooses, everybody else is a complete and utter toss-up, because they don't seem invested in the process at all to me. And really, even speaking on Joy and the Barry White guy, like, Even them, I wouldn't even consider a relationship. They just have a lot of sexual tension between each other. They have, a lot of sexual chemistry, and that's really what it's giving off. It's not even giving off anything of substance or a relationship or anything, and that's fine. But we need to just change the show title. We need to just change the show title to Ready for Sex, so everybody knows what they've signed up for. Ready for sex or ready to bone, because it's not ready for love. Nobody's talking about love on this show, and that's been long gone. They need to revamp. They need to rebrand the show. They need to go in another direction or go back to the original format. Or even if you want to replicate last season, just throw in the bombshells one time in the middle of the season, and then see if it affects certain connections or not. But this whole thing where we're just going to introduce new bombshells the first 4 weeks of the process, it ruins the opportunity for the audience and the viewers to not only get to know some of the cast and some of the original cast that was on the first episode, but it also hinders the process overall for, some of these singles. You barely have had time to even develop the connection that you were pursuing with one or two particular people, and then they throw in 3 or 4 additional people immediately, to where that's taking additional time away from those 2 people you were trying to get to know, because they're getting set up on other blind dates with people. And it's one thing, and it's like, it's already enough that we originally had started the show where everybody was supposed to be getting to know everybody. All of each other. But starting out with less people and then gradually adding all these people each week, like adding, 6 more people, I think it was. Like, it was just too much. You should just start it with the 10 singles and, 10 single men, 10 single women, like you always do every season. And then you could have incorporated some type of twist, like last season where Sydney and Sean came in the middle. And maybe in this time you do 2 Sydneys and 2 Seans in the middle. But this whole thing where we start off the first 4 episodes with all these new people, I don't know anybody now. I only know a couple of people. Because you threw so many people at us, you throw so much action at us, I have nobody to be invested in. I have no reason to be invested. And between that and all of the sex talk, it's just exhausting. It is just completely and utterly exhausting. And so it's hard, because it's like, I love this show. I am happy, of course, for the couples that were able to come out of this show, of course, and things of that nature. But where are we going moving forward with this franchise? Where are we going? Because if it's just going to be a show about sex, we need to rename the show. Because this is not what the show was intended to be. The show was intended to be to potentially, date and court multiple people, to see out of those people, once you finish those 6 weeks or however long filming is now with COVID and everything else, at the end of that process, to see who is most likely the person you want to exclusively date and or potentially get into a romantic relationship with moving forward. But now it just seems like everybody is hooking up, or most people are hooking up in the cast, and therefore it's distorting their real connections that they may have with somebody else, because they're sleeping with somebody else. They're sleeping with one of their other castmates, so it's distorting the process. And then that's why you see primarily the women getting into it, because they're like, this is my man, or this is my dude, or whatever. But really, we find out it's because they were already sleeping together behind the scenes. Because there's no reason that you should be this pressed or losing your mind at an elimination or during a conversation with somebody, unless you've been intimate with them in some capacity that gave you some type of thought or wherewithal that you were in it to the long haul, that you were going to be at the end. So that is what it's giving me, and I'm turned off, to be honest, because it's not a dating show anymore. It's not. It is, people getting paid a stipend to go on reality TV to potentially see people that they want to hook up with, like live in person, without having to go through the app first. That's what it's giving. So I just don't know where we go from here. I honestly don't know. But all the talk last night, I was just so disgusted. Precious was, I mean, even if she is sober, she's still talking like that about sex to people. So it didn't even matter that she was turned up yesterday. It was just more egregious than normal. But she still was like that even when she's sober. So it's just a lot, because it's like you want to have people you root for, you want to have people that you think are going to make it, or you think potentially can go somewhere, but all of the sex talk was just too much last night. And what was weird, it was a lot of the women who were leading with it. And that's what I mean. As women, why are you thinking that the only way to get a guy's attention is to lead with sex? Is to lead with sexual innuendos? Why aren't you thinking that your personality, who you are, your morals, your values, your integrity, what makes you stand out amongst everybody else is not good enough, that you have to resort to the sex talk is a deeper issue at hand? It's ready for therapy, not ready for love. We need to find out why people with past traumas are taking the leap to reality TV in hopes that that is going to change or make something else better. When you're dealing with people who are broken, when you are dealing with people in the cast who don't even want to talk to the women, who are standoffish if it's not the one or two people that they like. Why are we dealing with broken people who are talking to other broken people who have never had a girlfriend before, who doesn't even know what that means, and tried to clean it up and say, well, it hasn't been in the traditional sense. No, you either had a girlfriend in your lifetime or you haven't. There's no traditional sense. You either had a girlfriend or you've just been hooking up with people but lying to them and making them think that they were a girl of yours, but they really were not. Like that's really all it was. But to have all of this happen in this environment, and you're dealing with people in the cast who are widows, who are divorcees, and everything else, that are in the midst of people who've never been in relationships before, who've, recently got out of something where somebody just cheated on them, so they're still holding on to some of those scars and those bruises and things of that nature. You need to talk to somebody first. You need to be in the space mentally and emotionally available for this type of show, because bringing up right off the bat your traumas is also another thing. It's like you're trauma bonding with people, but you're not truly getting to know them, right? So either they're going to feel closer to you because of your trauma, or they're going to distance themselves because they felt that you told them too soon about a trauma. But it's going to be one of the two things. And then, like I said, the people who've never had a traditional girlfriend before are not going to have one now as the result of this show. They will play along. They will play the game. They will make you think that you're interested or whatever, and they'll see how far they can go to get what they want to get from you. And then once the show wraps, or once the contracts expire, then you're going to see the real person, and they're going to move on to whoever they were dealing with, or allegedly may have already had somebody before the show. Who knows? But again, everything is up for debate right now. But this show is not ready for love. It's ready for sex. It's ready to bone. It's ready for therapy. That's what this show is, and it needs to be revamped. We need to have Ayanna Vanzant or somebody on the show. We need a therapist, to be honest with you. Because if we're going to continue to cast broken people who think they're ready to date, but they're really not, we need to have a therapist on here. Because we need to have a therapist to address some of the red flags and some of the issues that these people are having in their dating processes, and why they are seeking out people who they know are not healthy or right for them, but still trying to make it right with them. We need to, because if we're not going to revamp the casting process of how we're casting these people on the show, we need to do something. And again, can we cast some people who look different? Can we stop casting the same lookalikes from previous seasons? Because that doesn't help matters either. Everybody looks alike. Everybody's bald with a beard. Like, how am I supposed to know who is who? How am I supposed to know? So, hopefully, like I said, It was one of my favorite shows at one point in time. I love the concept. You know, I love Nephew Tommy and everything else, but it's just giving me boring this season, and it's just not giving anything of substance. You know, you have all these successful people in the DMV, and all we're seeing is just episodes about sex and sexual innuendos. And one of the men in the cast who's still on the show saying that somebody's down for whatever after 9 p.m. or whatever that inappropriate comment was. Like, it was just wrong. It was just wrong all the way around. And if he feels that way, I know the other men feel that way. But they just know, they have the wherewithal not to say it on camera. But all of these men, you know, are saying in their confessionals, but here's the issue too, is like, you can tell they're uncomfortable, and they say in these confessionals in their diary sessions, yeah, I didn't like that conversation, or I didn't like them saying this and that or whatever, but you never mentioned that when you were there with them, right? You either gave into it or had like the awkward silence or the awkward whatever, but you could have shut down that conversation, but by not shutting it down, it leads to more sexual questions or more sexual innuendos. So it's a hot mess all around, you guys. It's a hot mess all around. And we're 4 episodes in. And I don't even know where we go. Because this preview for next week looks as though they're playing some type of truth or dare game. And really the one couple, Joy and Barry White, like that's it. That is it that look to be, you know, the most into the process compared to everybody else. So it'll just be interesting to see where we go from here, you guys. It'll be very interesting to see where we go from here. What do you guys think? What are your guys' thoughts? I'm curious to know. Like, are you guys enjoying this season? Are you guys enjoying what OWN is giving you this season? Because I am not. I think we need to completely revamp and start over. We need to rebrand. We need to rename the show. We need to start completely over. Because this isn't it. It needs to be, next season needs to be Ready to Love back to the basics. Which is actually getting to know somebody. Actually asking pertinent questions to somebody you would be interested in dating. And not just sex. And sexual acts. And sexual innuendos, and sexual jokes, and sexual references. Because that's all it is. That's all the show has turned out to be now. So let me know your guys' thoughts. Let me know what you think of this season. Who do you like? Who do you dislike? Where do you think this show is going as a franchise? Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys again very soon.